Ever wish a podcast would explain how to get better faster from the standpoint of longevity, biohacking, and personalized functional medicine? Co-hosts Dr. Jason Bradley and James Chester, along with executive producer Rachel Bradley, bring you the Get Better Faster podcast. Their mission is radically simple: to revolutionize health by connecting people with the experts, technologies, and protocols that mainstream medicine ignores. Because people deserve to get better faster.
Hello, Get Better Faster Nation. I'm Dr. Jason Bradley, and along with my co-host, the one, the only, James Chester, and our incredible executive producer, Rachel Bradley, we want to welcome you to another explosive episode of the Get Better Faster podcast. Today, we're joined by someone who's been fearlessly speaking truth to power on global stages, from the Romanian Palace of Parliament to the US Senate, to the EU Parliament, and the Japanese Parliament. Jason Christoff is a Canadian health advocate, behavioral psychology expert, and one of the most compelling voices in the medical freedom movement today. He's dedicated his career to exposing how media manipulation and psychological techniques are used to control public perception, especially during health crises. If you've ever wondered why certain narratives dominate while others are silenced, Jason has the answers. And what I'm personally excited about is that I get to talk about media framing, my graduate degree, and really dive in here with the world expert on this. I'm so stoked about it. Without further ado, Jason Christoff, welcome to the show.
Thanks, doctor. Thanks for having me on. I wouldn't say I'm the world expert. I just trying to figure out what's going on, and I share my experiences in my writings and my presentations. So it's going good so far.
Yeah, Jason, it's my first shot at getting to know you today. So I think we have a couple titans on this call today. And we're going to get right down to business and talk about the things that, as Dr. Jason pre-framed, you do have some expert footing on when it comes to media manipulation. And I think it's a really timely conversation also because we're coming out of the past 5 years where everyone was lambasted with do this, don't do that. But why do I do this? Why should I do that? And why shouldn't I just do what I used to do? And I think there's a lot of questions, and then those asked questions, we were manipulated even further and shamed and media lambasted, and we were shadow banned and censored and told that we were on wrong agendas. And I think that we're going to get to the bottom of a lot of this today. But what was your big awakening moment? When did you decide that you were going to go out there and be a rebel for this cause?
Well, I started investigating vaccines about 25 years ago, and that really took me down to the bottom levels of the rabbit hole. And then I was very naive. I would basically think, oh, well, look at this information. If people just knew this information, they would make different decisions. So I would forward the information, and they would have children that were maybe going to get these things, and they weren't interested whatsoever. So I was left with the question, why are these people doing things that are illogical and irrational? And when you point them out, they don't care. So I really started to assess the psychological angle that something nefarious had entered these people's psyches and was sort of hijacking them or taking them over. But it didn't really come to my full attention, this mind control, brainwashing, propaganda, psychological manipulation aspect. It didn't come to my full attention until I owned a small chain of fitness clubs, and I was a trainer. I've been trained through Paul Chek at the Chek Institute in San Diego, California. And so it's a good certification. You know what you're doing. And I advertised as being sort of the owner of the chain. A lot of people lined up to train with me, and they would give me, I was charging a very high price, and they would fork over their money. And then we would start on their journeys of betterment, and they would always turn around. They would always fail. They'd always stop. They'd always run in the other direction. Sure, we get some initial results right out of the gate. But if, let's say, the client wanted to lose 30 pounds, maybe they could get to 9 pounds. And then it was like you were asking them to build a space shuttle out of bubble gum. They would just say, can't do this any longer. And they would go back to their various addictions. And sometimes they would, gain back the 9 pounds and then an extra 5 pounds. It almost seemed like they were afraid to be better. And I just not with the weight, with anything. So I phoned the Czech Institute and I said, it's getting embarrassing. I'm a trainer. I have your certification. I'm taking a lot of money from these people. They're not getting in shape, and socially it's getting a little awkward. And the lady on the phone said, well, they're sort of under mind control. They have this thing called mimetic programming, sort of like a brainwashing where the average person is afraid to be different than the crowd. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody want to be overweight if they didn't have to? Or why would they want to be addicted and smoke when quitting smoking gives you so many benefits? And this lady said, look, we're going to have to send you some information. You're a little bit behind the times with human psychology. And I said, yeah, sure, send it along. If I ever come back, they assured me it is taught in the higher levels of the Czech Institute. So I started researching all this psychological manipulation we're under. And I really started to talk about it openly. And I started to take clients online, having my own process about how to put clients through my structure to identify if they had these mind viruses that were adverse to them leading better lives. And I got so busy, I had to open sort of a psychological reprogramming institute where I taught my technique to other people. And basically my school just teaches brainwashing, mind control, psychological manipulation, group dynamics, and we teach it to health professionals so they can better understand themselves and better understand their own patients or clients, because this affects everybody. No one's free and clear of this group dynamic mind control.
Wow, you just opened up a lot of pathways for me to go down with you. So I run another show called Cairo Hustle, and I open it up calling it, my call out is medical freedom, family health freedom, body autonomy, freedom of speech, and finding a chiropractor that can help you with these things. And it's interesting that you parallel this with personal training and self-accountability, because most of the time people don't go to the chiropractor because they're like, damn, I want to go just be more healthy. They come into it because of some health crisis.
Yeah.
And obviously, they've been on the fringes of the medical movement for a long time, and they don't play in the dogmatic control state of big box medicine, the pharmaceutical mafia, and the people that are telling people that if you have a pill, a potion, or a lotion, this is going to like cure your ills. But you're telling me that it's a mind control and it's mimetic programming that people are going through. And I got to tell you, man, I was just flying out to Grand Rapids, Michigan from Tucson, Arizona, and I got like held over in O'Hare, and I was looking for healthy food, man. And I have United Club, okay? And I went to United Club, and it looked like the most oppressive state of like where you pay extra to get like access to something. I'm like, what is going on here? And then I'm like, well, can we find anything worth value in this entire place? And everybody just looked like they're slurping sodas, eating McDonald's, and just in this depressive mindset. And I'm like, what are we doing? And like you start looking around at people and there's no real edge to anybody. No one's got joy. Nobody feels like they're a part of anything great. I mean, even if they're going to the coolest place on earth, they still we're in this like zone of control.
Of I just want to say it's the great state of Iowa. That's where they're going, the greatest place on earth.
Hey, well, knowing that Jason and I are both from Iowa, it's pretty cool. But and we do have a saying in Iowa that fields of opportunity and we make you smile. So it's if you are going to Iowa, there are fields of opportunity and we might just make you smile. But while I was sitting in there in the O'Hare airport, Christoff, I was just like, what is going on here? And why is everybody in this control matrix where nobody seems happy and everything just seems in total chaos and everybody just seems manipulated and controlled? And now I'm talking to you today and you just teed it all up for me and you're like, this is why.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how it works. So your observations are correct. People are lost. They're messy. They're disempowered. They're dysfunctional. They're diseased. They're disoriented, financially destitute, but no one was born like that. So mind control is about, as Jason, Dr. Bradley's well aware, is it's repetitive content. So if you want to mind control someone, you go really heavy on the repetitive content that you want them to follow. And you put it in the media, and the average person won't see how repetitive the messages are. So if you're the mind controller, why are you doing that? Well, if you're the mind controller, you know that there's a second part of the brain. It's the subconscious, and it counts for repetitive content in a very rapid way. And you don't know it's counting for the content. You don't even know it's doing it, but of course you don't know why. Your subconscious would be so attracted to the most repetitive content in your environment at the time. So the subconscious knows that it's safer for you to be in the bigger group. It's not good to be in a small group. It's good to be in the bigger herd, the bigger tribe. So the subconscious has this invisible way that it assesses where the bigger tribe is, or at least the characteristics of the bigger tribe. Now, this is all invisible to you. It's not a malfunction. It's a defense mechanism. It's a loving defensive mechanism. And you have lots of other invisible things occurring inside your body, like your heart beating or your eyes blinking or your digestion. And thank God you're not in charge directly of your heart beating because you couldn't sleep. So there's lots of things you are already aware of that happen outside your conscious awareness. Now, this counting system that all mind controllers know about, it's also outside your conscious awareness. Now, once the subconscious mind focuses in on the most repetitive shoes that everybody's wearing, or the coat, or the baseball cap, or the idea, or the belief system, or color of clothes, it writes it all down on this list and then drives it into your behavior system. Again, all invisible. But what's also invisible is as it drives it into your behavior system, you adopt it as your own, but you don't even know what's going on. So it's all invisible. And there's so many situations like this. I mean, I'll just say, like, say the Top Gun movie. Okay. So the Top Gun movie, there was two of them. They were released, I think, about 32 years apart, one in the 80s, one recently. And when that show came out, when that movie came out, both times, so it's two separate times, the application rate to the Top Gun fighter school went up 500%. What we see on the screen, if it's repetitive, and there's other ways to make you attracted to the content, the adoration for Tom Cruise in the movie also adds a layer of attractiveness to mimic and copy and emulate the behavior. They want to be like Tom Cruise because this is a safety seeking mechanism. Sure, the most repetitive content is driving a fighter jet, but to be exactly like Tom Cruise is an extra layer of safety and security for this safety seeking mechanism because everybody loves Tom Cruise. And this part of the brain has been proven. It doesn't know, like when you're in the theater, it's just counting content like it's real time. It doesn't know the difference between screen time, imagined thought, and basically real life. So as you're sitting there, your subconscious is like, okay, you're in a different tribe right now. You're in a different group. We'll call it the cinema tribe. And whatever repetitive content is going down in those 2 or 3 hours, your subconscious is going to act on it the way it's designed to act on it in a natural way. Now, the mind controllers know that. That's what your theaters are for. They're not there to entertain you. You're dealing with and this is the average person. I mean, I'm sure the first 10 minutes here is educated them. But now we just start having to educate on that's what the cinema's for. It's not there to entertain you. It's there as an arm of governance of a very, very old sort of ruling family crime syndicate who invented the movie reel. And they call it the movie reel because whatever's on the reel becomes real. And whatever's thrown through the projector, you're going to project into the physical realm. And it's more bizarre than that. If you get into even the quantum physics of how humans create reality with their brain waves, but we're not going to go there. We're just going to go to basically the repetitive content. And one of the ways too, that'll make you mimic the repetitive content on your movie screen even more is basically caffeine and sugar and poisons that you get at the canteen.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and there's so much to what are we at, like 10, 15 minutes into the show? And I think I've got 200 questions to unpack now. So, thank you, both of you guys, for sharing. I thought it was interesting, Jason, where you said, if I might not have the quote right, but something like, if people just knew this information, they'd make different decisions, but they didn't, and they didn't seem interested. They didn't care about what I was talking about. And then we have James walking through O'Hare, which, by the way, everybody should avoid, in my opinion. I try to avoid Chicago, that airport, like crazy anytime I can. I always wind up with problems. But and James is walking around though, and I've done this too, and I'm sure Jason, you've done it too. Looking for any healthy choice. Like, is there one healthy choice in my vision around where I am right now? And it's like there's lots of choices, but it's like, do you want poison A or poison B? It's very interesting. So there's the illusion of choice. I want to put that on the table to talk about. The other thing that I want to say, though, is just for our listeners, because I'm deep down this rabbit hole with Jason. James and I have had conversations about this. Just for full disclosure, I have been a student of Jason's, and diving into this. And again, I thought I knew how manipulation works because I've got a graduate degree in media framing and I'm trained to manipulate the public with media. That's what journalists do. I'm sorry to tell you, everybody, but Jason Christoff, you said something that if they heard it, people might be like, I don't know about that. And one of them was, the Hollywood industry isn't there to entertain you. It's there to program you. You didn't quite say that, but that's what we said. So just to let people know how woo-woo hokey is that statement. The Atlantic, the prestigious Atlantic journal, New magazine, which, by the way, also has problems. But the reason I chose the Atlantic is because they're notoriously accepted as truth tellers, as, whatever that is to the general public. They did an investigation to Hollywood and they found the intelligence community, the CIA and the intelligence community, tied in very early from even the 1940s. And the CIA and the intelligence agencies looking at Hollywood as an arm of intelligence. And that's not Jason Christoff saying that alone. That's not me or James saying it. That's the Atlantic. That's like the New York Times of magazines, saying that this is the real deal. It's not conspiracy theory. So with our listeners, I just want you guys to know that this isn't like hokey, weird, made up stuff. It's well documented that pretty much everyone accepts. We just don't talk about it. Jason, without saying the obvious, why don't more people know about this?
The only way, it's like, why does a magician not reveal how he does his tricks? Because then he's not going to draw an audience. He's not going to get the effect that he wants. So if you were aware, if you started to watch a movie, any movie, and you were aware of, say, the top 3 most repetitive themes purposely interwoven into the script and into the scenery, you'd start realizing that it doesn't matter what movie you go to. And it's, again, the illusion of choice. So if you go into the Cineplex, heavy emphasis on the phonetic sin there. They spell it CIN, but really it's SIN. They like to trick you like that. So if you go into the lobby of the Cineplex and you can go see Morgan Freeman, or you can go see Brad Pitt or George Clooney, or you can see Chris Hemsworth or Chris Tucker or it doesn't matter who you're going to go see. You're going to find all the same imagery, the same repetitive content throughout most of the movies. And then if you knew which ones to pick out, you'd be like, you say you go with 3 people and you say, you're going to look for objects A. The second person, you're going to look for objects B. And then the third person, you're going to look for object C. And let's compare our notes after. You're going to see all the films are the same. They're there to sell you the repetitive content as your subconscious does what it's designed to do outside your conscious awareness. And again, this is called MK Ultra. I mean, pop that into your search engine if you think it's fictitious. This is MK Ultra. And it has a well-known history in the United States, well documented. It's not hidden whatsoever.
Well, you touch on this topic of the cinema. It's really like yesterday. I'm in an Uber, or the day before, I'm in an Uber, and I'm working with this young guy, and we go by this karate studio. He's like, "Hey, man, did you ever do like martial arts?" I was like, "Yeah, when I was a kid." I was like, I think everybody did when Karate Kid was in the movies. I was like, I'm basically mimicking what you said about Top Gun. I was like, yeah, man, I definitely did some karate stuff when I was a kid because of the Karate Kid movie. Who didn't do karate stuff back when the Karate Kid movie came out? And I was like, it was like a no-brainer. Everybody that was like around that time when that movie came out was like into martial arts because that's what all the kids were doing, because that's what they were programming us with. And I said the exact same thing you said about like people joining Top Gun. Like, it's the same framework, bro.
Yeah, and even if you didn't potentially enroll in a karate class, you might have got the headband with the rising sun on the forehead for, that Mr. Miyagi gave Ralph Macchio. So yeah, they're there because they have a saying: "What's on the screen at noon will be on the street at night." And if that's whatever they want you to do, it's called social engineering. It's out of the Tavistock Institute. There's great books on the Tavistock Institute, which is in the United Kingdom, and you can investigate for yourself. But this is what these productions are for.
It's interesting. I don't know, like a lot of people, but I've had a varied professional career, and I've had a lot of really great experiences. One of the great experiences I had was I actually worked for the movie industry as a medical director for a number of, I wouldn't even call them B movies. I would call them like D movies. But nonetheless, I will say that industry pays really, really well. And I had a lot of fun being on sets and meeting people. But even on the sets I was on, we had an entire, well, not department, but a person, usually, that was dedicated for placements and basically for manipulation within the movie. I mean, some of it's really straightforward. Like, here's I don't have my Apple symbol on the back, but I could, here's my iPhone, and I could just have an iPhone sitting there, or a bottle of Coke, or whatever it is, just for product placement in the show itself. I think people are pretty aware of that. I think that with the Karate Kid, with the Top Guns, with all of that, I can see the social engineering at play there as well. But I think what's really interesting, and I don't know if we're ready to go to the next level of Dante's Inferno here, but it's not just product placement, and it's not just incentivizing getting into karate or joining the Air Force. And this is where it gets interesting for me.
Those are the good sides.
Those are the good sides, right? And even taking it a step back with my, graduate degree, media framing from the Adler School of Journalism, I used to, when I would teach undergraduates, when I was going through my graduate training, I taught media framing to young budding journalists. And for fun, we would watch news shows, fill in the blanks, Fox, CBS, ABC, CNN, MSNBC. And the assignment for every single class was, we're going to watch this segment as though it's from a movie. Just watch it as though it's from a movie. Like, it's not real. Just suspend all belief, no matter what they're talking about. This is from the latest, Air Force One, saving the president, saving the US, like, what's going on. And it was really interesting when the kids would do that. And they started looking at, like you said, commonalities in the way things are delivered, specific language that's used. So there's that piece of it. And I'll come back to language in a minute. But the other thing is, there are when I started working with you and diving a little bit deeper, I realized it's not just, even though this is subconscious that we're talking about, it's not the overt subconscious. Is there such a thing? The overt subconscious. There's like I think what blew me away was when you were taking media stills. It could be from a movie. I think the Avengers might have been in there, and it was yeah, you know where I'm going with this, right? So go ahead. Like when you put the Avengers up for me to just look at, and I'm like, oh shit, there was some engineering going on and some planning going on way before it all unraveled for us. Jason, can you make sense what I'm talking about and why people would be blown away? I wish I could just flash it on the screen for people to see.
Yeah, people generally have to see it to believe it. And there's many situations like that. I'm just going to give people an example of how powerful the repetitive content can be to change human behavior. So you can find on the alternative, or you can just email me at info@jchristoff.com if you want this made for Netflix special. It's called The Push, and it's with this UK mind control expert, Darren Brown. He took 70 of his friends, gave them a script, all heavily versed in mind control, focused on one poor mind control victim. They're going to change his behavior. It's going to be recorded. It's got to have a very grand crescendo because Netflix is purchasing this. What's the crescendo going to be? What are they going to try and mind control him into doing? They're going to try and mind control the guy into committing murder live on camera. And so they got 2 hours to work with. It was synthesized down to 1 hour presentation on Netflix, but the entire real film time was 2 hours. They edited it down. And for whatever reason, the show is getting into the later periods. It ends on the top of a 10-story building. For whatever reason, there is an old man, an actor, with his feet over the side of the 10-story building. But don't worry, he's not old. He's a stunt man, fully in makeup, and he's harnessed, but you can't see the harness. And there are a good group dynamics, a big meeting of the actors and this poor mind control victim on the roof. And the group dynamics is tabled in such a way that the man is told to solve all your problems and be one with the group. All you have to do is go kill that old man and push him off the side of the building. We're not going to say anything. Then you're in our tribe. This experiment was run 3 out of 4. It was run 4 times, 3 out of 4 times, different victims every single time. 3 out of 4 people murdered the man live on camera, getting filmed by at least 12 different angles. So this is how powerful mind control can be. That's only with 2 hours of application. And now we roll back to the first Captain America. I think it was in 2011, and your subconscious downloads the film and processes it at 11 million pieces of data point a second. So trust me, you might miss it, but the subconscious isn't going to miss it. Your conscious mind can only handle, that's the part of the brain you're listening to this podcast with, it can only handle 140 pieces of data point a second. So what flashed on the screen in 2011 was Captain America without his gear on in Times Square. And if you stop the film, up on one of the billboards on the right-hand side was a large bottle of Corona. And then on the left-hand side was the literal animation of the coronavirus. So there you go, coronavirus. And someone will say, oh, that's not going to change my mind. And you're right. But it's one repetition that's now down on the sheet of repetitive themes. Okay, so now you go watch I Am Legend. Then you watch 28 Days with Cillian Murphy. Then you watch World War Z with Brad Pitt. Then you watch Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman. Then you watch Contagion with Matt Damon and Lawrence Fishburne. Why do you think all those came out? Because they're all the same theme. There's something floating in the air that can kill you. there is a huge effect to that, to the point where you're going to lose everything you care about. Like in I Am Legend with Will Smith, he lost his daughter, he lost his wife, he lost his dog, he lost his job, he lost his town, and he lost his mind, and he lost his life. That's meant to scare the shit out of you. Because when you're scared shitless, it bonds you to the repetitive content even more. How many repetitive themes or words or actions or pictures is it proven to change someone's behavior, to trick the subconscious to go along and mimic it in order to fulfill tribal safety requirements? The answer is 2. You only need 2 repetitive imprints to get the subconscious leaning over to adopt the Nike shoe or the Gucci purse as its own. And there was over 300 mainstream, something's floating in the air, something in the needle will save you, and if you don't, you turn into a zombie. That's its own movie genre. There was 300 of those movies made over the past 25 years alone. And when 2020 started, Contagion and all these movies rolled endlessly on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And the first CEO of Netflix is Mark Rudolph Bernays. His great, I think it's his great uncle is Bernays, Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, which means the father of mind control.
And wasn't Bernays related to Freud? Am I wrong about this?
Yeah, that was his uncle.
Yeah, his uncle. So I would hold on. Let me say that lineage again. Sigmund Freud, psychoanalysis, brain stuff, right? Subconscious, all that kind of stuff, right? His nephew, Edward Bernays, I might be wrong about this, so please correct me, but if didn't come up with, definitely looked into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, as a manipulative tool to get an outcome that you're looking for. And then, as you mentioned, certainly got involved with the intelligence communities and all that. But then his, like you said, great fill in the blank, great nephew or something is running Netflix. I mean, these aren't coincidences. I mean, it lists this thing. As you said, it's like one example. There are so many of these examples. There's hundreds and hundreds of these examples. And like you said, it's interesting with I'm not sure the word I want to go for here. It's got to have some cognitive dissonance for our listeners that have no idea at all. This is brand new virgin material for them to hear, wow, there's an organized intelligence community that's manipulating us in not only the news that we all look at and the commercials that we're all subjected to, but in our entertainment industry. It probably goes into not just movies and not just visuals, but probably songs as well, music as well, I would think. I'm going to give it to you right after this statement. You said a word, and I can't remember what it was magician. You said a magician does not reveal the secrets, but the word magician is interesting because, of course, it's magician implies magic, which implies spells, which is spelling, which is words. Words have energy. Words have so much energy, and it's not just the visuals and it's not just the people. It's the words over and over, and put it to a poppy tune that someone can dance to. I mean, boy, we've won something there.
It's full body.
Full body, right? Yeah.
It's not just mind. It's full body then.
Yeah.
The thing about whether you're going to mind control through film, it's harder to mind control through film than it is to mind control through music. Because again, the premise is the same. Repetition wins the day. Repetition represents the most repetitive content, or, it represents what the bigger tribe is saying, thinking, or doing. And it has like a massive effect on the people. I mean, you can just imagine this song by Beck, I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? And there was this era in film and music, like let's say In Excess, they had a song called Suicide Blonde. And then there was a movie called Suicide Squad. And then there was news reports about suicide. And during this big suicide blitz, suicides went up because the subconscious takes these these repetitive themes as suggestions and commands. The weaker you are, the more they up level to commands. That's what the average person has to understand, is that just like those parents who I would give the information to about the arm darts for their kids, the subconscious doesn't care even if it's going to hurt the child. The subconscious is only obsessed with, if I do this, will I be accepted by the bigger group? So anytime people do things to their children, especially today, they're doing it for themselves to be accepted by the group. The kids be damned. But this is not a logical thought process in the mind of the parent. The subconscious does what the group is doing. And if your group bit the heads off live bats for breakfast, this would be your breakfast. Because if you don't fit in.
Like, you took me on some really dark pathways there, and Dr. Jason pre-framed all that up like epically well. And I was just like over here swimming in my thoughts. I'm like, oh gosh, magicians. Oh gosh, Hollywood. Oh gosh, music industry. And I'm thinking like the common person. Like this isn't even on their radar. They're just like, I got to go make some money today because I got to eat some food and I got to go to sleep. And gosh, what am I going to do on the weekend? And do I have people that like me? And gosh, I don't even know if I like myself now. And gosh, look at all these things that are happening on the TikTok, what's going on the YouTube, what's going on the book face. And everybody's like integrated into this, like this next level. This is the next tier. This is the next frontier. It's not in the cinemas anymore. It's not just on MTV anymore. It's with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's constant. And anytime you open your eyes, it's there.
Here too.
That's it. That's where I'm going. And now it's programmed. I used to use this in this construct, Christoff. I used to say, look, I got a black friend, right? And I would go and like check out him scroll his Facebook or his Instagram. And I'm like, bro, I don't see anything like that on mine. Then I would go and see Jason scroll his, Dr. Bradley. I'd see him scroll his, and everything's filled with stuff that's similar to me. And I'd be like, wow, that looks kind of like my feed, but people you know. And I'm sure, Christoff, if I went to your little device and I said, hey, let me see you scroll for 3 minutes, I'd be like, huh, that looks similar to mine. But now if I went to a friend of mine in Mexico City and hung out with them for 5 minutes and watched them scroll, it would be nothing like the three of ours. So where I'm going with this is, it's an illusion that they create for us, and now it travels with us 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And to go one step further, you guys talked about magicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in an illusionist show, and they said, hey, if we pick you to be a part of this illusionist show, you have to swear to secrecy that you'll never tell people what happened. I was like, huh, well, let's go for it. Anyways, they pulled me up on stage and they disappeared me. I just like vanished. And I never told anybody what happened. But that's how good it is. Like, that's how good all the things that you're talking about, Christoff, are. Is there's people out there saying, hey, we'll let you in on this, but swear to secrecy that you won't say anything about this. If not, we're gonna make your kids transgender, or we're gonna make you on the deep side of like we're going to blacklist you and you won't get work anymore.
Or expose you with, I mean, quite frankly, expose you with the intelligence that we've collected on you. I mean,
yeah.
It's interesting. I mean,
yeah.
What you're saying is, James, what I'm hearing is the premise anyway, is that the people that are these people making this stuff and doing this stuff, they have, I'm going to call them patsies. They have patsies down here that they own. And they own them through the Jeffrey Epstein, lineage of operatives that are collecting intelligence on people around the world. And then you get powerful people, whether or not they're part of the the originators of the propaganda, they certainly help others buy into it. There's certainly influencers, authority figures, people in the government, even not just those evil CEO people, but people that we quote trust to help us, their governments. Which brings me to, you've spoken at all these parliaments and across the EU and the Senate. I have so much respect for that. I don't even know how I would feel in front of those people, but I have so much respect for you for doing that. And I think on one level, like in my old way of thinking, I'm like, Jason's going to go there and he's going to expose it all. And the people in parliament and the people in the Senate are going to be like, oh my God, this can't be real. We got to change everything. And now I'm like, they're just part of the goddamn system. Like, it's great that you're talking and it's great that you're doing it. But I wonder, are they receptive at all? Or I'm curious, like, how is this message received when you're speaking?
It's received very well, and there's a lot of players that keep in touch with me and keep up to date on the, how mind control operates. But the system is, it's got its gatekeepers, and it gives a lot of rewards. I mean, one of the most effective mind control modalities is paycheck mind control. If you can make someone's paycheck be based on following a script, even if it's illogical, well, they're going to go along with the script. And there's different facets of this. I have a documentary coming out in November called Planet Mind Control that explains all these things, but there's different facets of it too. Say you have a person in a high position in government who gets $250,000 a year to look the other way. What cements him into his soul-crushing decisions every day is because the school system's also involved, because it's an obedience system. It's not a knowledge system. That poor person making $250,000 couldn't make $40,000 a year on his own. So, of course, there's different facets that work together. It's like there's 130 pieces in a watch, and they all work together to tell the time. Everything that I'm talking about, you can't look at it as its own entity of controlling you. There's other modalities of control that work together, like the 130 cogs in a watch.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's interesting, too, because somewhere I said in here, if you keep people exhausted and not feeling great and distracted and struggling and divided, they're not going to be able to organize. They're not going to be able to come together. And I just texted James and I said, what he's saying is the system isn't broken. It's working as it's designed to work. And I think that, man, that's such a heavy load. I feel very aware of this. And it's still a heavy burden for me to carry. And I can't imagine, like you said, if you're on the front end of this and just hearing this for the first time, it's got to be interesting, to say the least, if not a little confusing, a little scary, and a little bit in disbelief. James, go ahead.
Well, pop it over to me for a second, because I'm listening to what you're saying and everything's going exactly as planned. And I'm interested in this medical matrix and how we got to where we are today in this medical matrix and how we can remove people from that. Because a lot of people that know me personally know that I'm an evangelist for medical freedom and family health freedom and chiropractic. And I actually go out and toe the line with society a lot. We were talking about off camera today about numbers, and I'm not like so much of a numbers guy, but I go and save a lot of people's lives from drugs and surgery by telling them the truth about real healthcare. And it's not even healthcare, it's called chiropractic. But I go out there and save people's lives and get them scheduled into a chiropractic clinic. And do you realize how much they are pre-programmed to think that we're quacks and to think that we hurt people and give people strokes and like break people's bones and stuff of all this nature? It's because it's working exactly as they wanted it to. Because I tell people this all the time, there's no money in healthy people. But what if there was money in healthy people? What if we could do exactly what you're doing when we opened up our conversation today? You personal train people for a good cause, and you help them pull out of the medical matrix. And I guess the big question is, how do you make people harder to kill and get them to pull out of this medical matrix?
Well, I tell you how you make them harder to kill, and I'll give you a story so you can remember it better. So, as long as you understand what the poison is for, that's an important aspect to self-recovery. I'll give you a story. Do you know what trail cameras are? They're cameras in the wild and follows the animals on the trails.
It's all the weirdos that say they saw a Yeti.
Yeah, well, this one's not a Yeti, but this was a black, like a literal black wolf, a very strong wolf that would look over the wolf pack from a higher perspective, a higher hill. And that real lone wolf, his job was to take care of the wolf pack and would not sleep inside the herd, would not sleep inside the pack. And it would be up and down the trail cam all the time on its own because it's strong. It's the biggest one. Doesn't need any help, doesn't need any protection. It can hunt on its own, fend for itself. Something happened to that black wolf one night and it limped back to the wolf pack. And for the first time, the people watching the cameras saw this big wolf that was now injured on the leg pretty badly. The bone was showing, and nuzzles his way into the middle of the pack and literally sort of by the behavior saying, hey, you know what? I know I used to be really strong. I'm not strong anymore. I need you to take care of me until I get better. Are you okay with me being part of the group? Now, what you have to understand about injured animals, well, poisoned animals are injured animals. And injured animals need the group more than strong animals. So this group's primary mission through the repetitive content is to poison you. Because the more poisoned you are, the weaker you are. And the weaker you are, the more you comply with the fictitious group pressure that they represent with their repetitive content. So if I have two people, one poisoned with Doritos and Budweiser and Arby's and Pizza Hut, and then I have someone super strong who's like the lone wolf, the black wolf, and I expose them to the media in 2020, talking with the repetitive themes, and there was a couple really repetitive phrases used in 2020. The one who's sick and out of shape and weak and IQ compromised, they have a massive draw toward the herd dynamics, which means they have a massive attraction, a magnetic attraction to copy and emulate and mirror the repetitive content in order to find safety in the bigger group. This is why they poison the crap out of you 24 hours a day. They don't do it. They give you the repetitive garbage. You eat it yourself because you're under mind control, because it means that in the next mind control campaign, you're more prone to go along with it.
Yeah, it's just super interesting. And the idea of going along with the crowd and the weakest and most injured animals, or I guess don't have to be the weakest, injured and weak animals, defaulting to go along with the herd, go along with the crowd. And it's interesting because I come from a background, I'm so careful with the word healthcare because I don't think there's health or care in healthcare, but whatever this world is, personal growth, and health experience. Before all of that, I was in anthropology, of all things, and did a lot of study of the human dynamic in culture and in crowds. And of course, Maslow's hierarchy of needs keeps coming up. It's come up like 5 times on this call in my head, maybe 10 times, because we kept talking about tribe and community and belonging. And for those of listeners, I think most people know what Maslow's hierarchy is, but long story short, before we can ascend to greater philosophical heights and poetry and all that, we need safety in a tribe. We need food. We need shelter. It's like real basic stuff. And that tribe is so important. And it's interesting because the fear that was inserted, or that not inserted in 2020 during the pandemic, the fear that's having been inserted for decades leading up to the pandemic, it created a right position to put people into fear, get compliance. But beyond that, I don't even want to go down the rabbit hole of, I almost said, whether they caught the virus or not. And I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now. I mean, it's what, if we go there, we'll go there. Otherwise, we'll have you back on and we'll talk about what I just said. I'm not going to open up that can of worms right now. But The point I'm making is we also isolated people. We removed them from community. We removed them from the tribe. We had an opportunity I was down in Bee Cave, Texas, in Austin, at an amazing mastermind with Alex Sharpin. I don't know if you know him, but brilliant man. Yeah, brilliant man, good friend of ours. And I was down there, and and the pandemic, whatever it was sprinkling out at that point. And Rach and I had done a road trip, and we drove to Texas, which is nuts. Maybe it depends on where you live, but that was a long drive for us, and we had a good time. But on the whole drive back, we were talking about the pandemic, or the idea of it and what it means. And shows like 12 Monkeys were coming to mind. It's like all these movies that you were talking about. I was like, holy crap on that. Coming back to Maslow, it became very clear early on, the division, the fear mongering. I mean, wine o'clock every day, I mean, it was a strange time. I mean, it was a strange time. And that just made us sicker and sicker, weaker and weaker, and more disconnected, making us more and more easy to control, basically, is the way I look at it. So the early rollout, back to the early rollout, though, I did a PSA, it started out as just a talk, and it ended up being I'm kidding, but like a 42-part class. I'm kidding about that. But it kept going on. I kept doing it and growing this training of how to survive COVID, how to survive this pandemic. And dude, the only thing that I came up with was take care of yourself. I was like, lose some, the people that were dying or supposedly dying or whatever word we're going to use there, they were overweight. They had pre-existing conditions, a lot of them due to metabolic factors related to lifestyle, eating shit food, not drinking enough water, drinking way too much caffeine, smoking, drinking alcohol. I mean, all of this stuff, when you look at the people also on pharmaceutical medications. I mean, if we look at the people that succumb to whatever this is, and again, that's a whole debate all on its own. It's like it was planted to divide, conquer, poison, conquer. I mean, it was like the perfect setup for that. Here's the question I'm finally getting to. Thank you for Maslow. You've talked to thousands of people. You've lectured to governments. You've got students all around the world. You travel the world. You're a man on the street, but also a man out in front. Did people learn? Are people waking up? I mean, as we mentioned, the cognitive dissonance, the denial, the all of it is really high, and it's scary. It's scary to go to the dark side, so to speak, or if we're on the light side. I don't know if we're on the light side or the dark side, but nonetheless, have people woken up? That's my question. You're traveling, you're talking to people on the street, talking to people in governments, all of that. Have people woken up since the pandemic? What do you think?
Yeah, generally they have. And, the group we're dealing with, unfortunately, have factored that, baked that into the cake as well. That's a lot of their control mechanisms that they're trying to introduce they revolve around the fact that they don't want to care what anybody thinks, and they're going to just try and drive all their systems down our throat, whether we speak back or rebel or not. So, but a lot of people are generally understanding that something is wrong, but it's hard for the average person because of the mind control, the repetitive content. A lot of people have a hard time not self-murdering. That's the biggest. There's themes like that you can push products or brands in this way, but you can also push what I call background noise programming or insidious programming. You have to self-murder today or you're really in a minority. And the human nervous system doesn't like the minority because it's a small crowd. Well, the smallest crowd is like a wealthy person who doesn't drink any alcohol, who doesn't drink any coffee, goes to bed on time. So with every health level achieved, you go into a smaller and smaller group. And that feeds on itself because the nervous system is like, I would love to be over there, really. I'd really love to be wealthy, have my own business, have a beautiful family, but it's such a small group. This is what the nervous system is saying to your behavior system. It's such a small group. We're for sure to get attacked. This is very dangerous on your part. So it'll say, well, just drink some wine and watch some Netflix and go work the job you don't really like, because opening the business and making 5 times what you make is very dangerous, a very small group. So our nervous system sees all the junk out there that the mind control has manufactured, and it's doing what it's designed to do. And so it takes a lot for the average person to just, not for me and not for you or not for you, James, but to say, okay, how much of my money and time am I committing to self-murder?
Mm.
And then be honest with yourself, and how many poisons are you eating or drinking? How, you self-murder your soul. I mean, if you're going to watch Netflix, which is just has all these agendas in them that, has the top 10 agendas throughout the whole collection of what you're going to be seeing. You have the over-sexualized, super powerful female. You have the beta male, the weak infantilized beta male. You have the alcohol programming. You have there's a lot of different genres that they're pushing into you through Netflix. It's self-murder. That's what it is. You're murdering the best of yourself.
And it's a normalization of it all too, where it's like, well, everyone else does it. It reminds me way back when I was in early practice. I actually was in sports medicine and I was working with dancers. So I had a long history working with dancers, and they're unique people anyway. But that all said, one of them got injured. And it was very clear to me doing quick little neurological exam that she had some blown discs. It was just, and I don't know, I didn't know what she needed, but she needed some stabilization. Sent her over to an MRI to confirm it. And she met with the doctor over there, and he would not approve the MRI with her insurance because he said, people don't blow thoracic discs. It's not real, et cetera. Long story short, her dad was a cardiologist in New York, called me and gave me a warning that he'll just pay cash for it and to let them know if there's anything on it, he's going to sue them. Long story short, the hospital ran the MRI. She had 4 blown discs in her thoracics. I mean, it was in a lot of pain. And the reason I bring all that up is because the doctor told her people are just in pain. It's normal. And there's really nothing to do. And I'm not saying that's not real. People are in pain. I don't want to say it's normal. It's not normal. It's common. And I talk a lot about the difference between being normal and common. I mean, those are two very different things. And this description that we're talking about, it's not normal to be like this. It's not a normal state of being at all, but we've, quote, normalized it because we've accepted the commonality as the norm. I just find that's interesting to try to break out of that, as James was saying, the matrix or the medical matrix is what we're talking about, the healthcare matrix or whatever that is. And what I keep hearing from you, everybody, is that we really are an amalgam of who we hang out with and what we consume, not just hear, but consume all of it. And it's just it's super interesting as you get into those levels of, I have some financial security. Rachel and I don't drink anymore at all. No drugs. No, I mean, it's like, there's that song, you don't drink, you don't smoke. What do you do? And I sometimes feel like that. And you're right. The world does get smaller. The intimacy of relationships that you have is different when you've broken out of the matrix. It is smaller. And quite frankly, it can be lonely sometimes, especially being in Iowa, where, I have some great friends in Iowa, but we don't know a lot of people that have broken out of the matrix around us. And we've tried to meet them. I mean, we go out of our way to meet them. So people like James and I are seeming to move close to each other and be around other people that are more of a community so that we can not feel isolated in Grand Junction, Colorado, or in Iowa City, Iowa. And just, I think there's magic in that community, but boy, is it hard to find, especially when you give up the norms of society. It's a different world.
When he's talking about this stuff and you share your examples, I'm always curious. I have 3 layers to go, but I'm always curious. I'm going to get to the main question for you. But when people talk about what happened over the past 5 years, I call it a scamdemic. I call it a plandemic sometimes. Most people call it a pandemic. I think the social priming and programming to say the word pandemic is a farce. I think a lot of times people use this social construct of the words that they say, and they try to have other people understand it from their perspectives. So when I say scamdemic to something that I didn't believe was real, people give me a lot of pushback. And to the point that my old podcast host that I ran the other show with is like, hey, my girlfriend saw that show we did and you called it a scamdemic. She doesn't want you to say that anymore. I'm like, well, that isn't going to fly. I'm going to stand in my lane. I'm going to say what I think. And if she doesn't like it, she doesn't have to watch it. And that was always my truth. But I think that the social priming, the social construct, even from that level of you didn't say it the way I want you to say it, and it's a real thing. I'm like, no, you guys are living in, Easter Bunny world. It's Santa Claus running the show. It's Easter Bunny science and it's Santa Claus legends. And I think that when people think about like what has happened, like there's real things happening when people took that advice and what happened to their families. And I know some people might say it's dangerous that or irresponsible that you didn't follow mainstream narratives. But what is your message to people who thinks that how I responded or the way that you or Dr. Jason responded that we should have just trust the mainstream medical authorities?
Well, number one, with whatever happened, it doesn't have to be real. It never had to be real in the first place because of the way the subconscious mind operates. You don't need anything real. You just need the news to ratchet up the repetitive content that you want people to believe in. That's all you need to do. Whether there was something real out there or not, and I have my own opinion on that, but it doesn't even matter because you don't need it to be real. All you need to do is say, okay, this is, Jay, you got to say something?
Go ahead. This is just what I do, and I have a comment to make later.
Okay.
Hey, I remember.
So I'll give an example. What do you have to do? So you go to New York City and you shut down every hospital on the island except Elmhurst. Okay, so you got like 3 or 4 hospitals closed, everything coming to one hospital. You get some kind of stranger going around signing DNRs, do not resuscitate orders. No one's ever really identified who that was, by the way. But then you call like a meat wagon, a freezer truck, to the side of the building. And basically, a lot of people die in New York. I mean, 1% of the population dies every year in the United States, and more so in the bigger cities. So the average is 1% per year, but the bigger cities, it might be 1.3%. So even there's a lot of homeless deaths. There's just a lot of deaths in New York, regardless if there's a problem, a pathogenic problem or not. So you got the flow, you got the death flow of 4 hospitals going to one hospital. And then you just start taking pictures of that meat wagon, the freezer wagon out front and saying the bodies are piling high. Yeah. And people are like, ugh. And then you put the cases always running along the bottom, but the cases are based on RT-PCR, real-time polymerase chain reaction test. And it's not a test because it has a dial that you can twist up or twist down depending on how many cycles of the test you want to run. And can you imagine a pregnancy test where if you have low cycles, you're not pregnant, but if you go high, you are pregnant? It's not supposed to work like that. You're either pregnant or you're not. And if you don't have a test, if you have a test that has all these variables for pregnancy, well, you can't market it because it's not a reliable test. So all you need to do is give the impression and make sure the news, the media, has the repetitive content. Now, if you just go to Google now, who's ever listening to this, go Google media, the country, not just media, the country. You're going to come across you don't even know, right? Did you know there was a country called media? Guess where all this technology was honed and sharpened and libraried for other people who would like to weaponize it against the average person. It was in this 2,500-year-old country called media. All you need is the media. That's why your media is called media, folks, because media manipulation started in the country called media. And then they moved, and they're the Italian, the Medici family, Medi. That's where you get the word medicine from, media, mediation. It's always a bit of magic going on there. So all you need is the repetitive content of the news, whether real or not, to lead the herd in the direction. Like in Canada, I remember when they crossed the 50% threshold on the news, they said 50% of the population is now taking the arm darts. And they're doing that on purpose because this was an Edward Bernays tactic. Make sure you always verbalize when the bigger group is being formed. 55% took the arm darts. If you didn't, literally at that time, my estimation was only 15% had taken the arm darts. But if you report falsely that it was 55, you trigger the group dynamic psychology in the public. And the verification is one man in a news studio. That's all you need. And here comes the herd into the clinics. That's it. That's how mind control works. It's not complicated. Let them know what the herd is doing, either through percentages or repetitive content.
And like you said, it doesn't even have to be real. And I'm going to try to unpack this quick.
But now it is real.
But now it is real, right? And I was just going to say, if a lie is told once, it remains a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth, right? And we all know who said that, which was Joseph Goebbels from Nazi fame, right? And it's true, though. I mean, despicable human being and whatnot, but at the same time, I mean, what he's saying is true. If we say the same thing over and over and over again, and that's why, again, coming back to media, and again, I don't know how you would even Google this, but if our listeners have not seen the mashups of the different news stations using the exact same phraseology and words like over and over, and people do those mashups, and they're brilliant when you realize it's clearly a script going around everywhere. And every anchor from the national shows to the local shows are saying the exact same words, like not just the same story, like the exact same words with maybe a inflection thrown in here or there. It's the most strange thing. But coming back to that, I'm coming back to the pandemic and this idea of saying the same thing over and over again, and it become a reality. Coming back to science, it's interesting. We have a lot of studies, some anecdotal studies, and they get progressively more interesting, where doctors in various settings have accidentally diagnosed someone with a terminal condition, saying they don't have long to live at all. And guess what? Those people will live up to that statement. Many of those people die, and then later on, they're like, "Oh, whoops, you didn't have that terminal cancer. That was Jenny next door, not Sally here. Sorry about that." But it's the power of suggestion, right? So again, words are like spells. Words are like magic. And when we implant that seed, our bodies will, I mean, if we believe it, our bodies are going to live up to it. I mean, I can talk about a stress response and the way a cortisol, catecholamine response, can affect the immune system. And I mean, I can go on and on with this biochemically now, talking about suggestion and damage. But I want to get your opinion on something that I downloaded over the weekend, and I didn't tell my wife. She knows about it now, and it's not porn, so don't get worried. I downloaded over the weekend, and I sprung this on her in our group with our private clients that I met with yesterday morning. I downloaded an app that I'm fascinated with, but not in the way people think, and it's called Death Clock. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with Death Clock, but basically it's an extended bunch of questions of what's your lifestyle like and your stress level and your this and your that, and you answer all these questions. You just answer all these questions, and I'm going to read it to you for people that are watching. I don't know if we can do this. I'll take a screenshot and we'll interstitial it into the produced show, but it says, and I quote, I don't even want to say this out loud, Jason is going to die. Not may. Jason is going to die Friday, September 1st, 2056, age 84. And I'm like, what time? Like, I'd like to kind of know, like, what time am I going to die? And then it says, how am I going to die? Cardiovascular disease and cancer are the top ones. I mean, that's not a big risk. I mean, that's not a big reach. Everybody dies of cardiovascular disease and cancer. But then it says sleep disorders. And I'm like, that's an interesting one. I don't sleep well, but maybe that's part of it. And then it says, where was the other one? Anyway, it says, if I had better habits, and I want to be clear about this. You know how there's like, do you eat fast food, once in a while, this, that, or never? Mine was never. Do you drink? Never. Do you smoke? Never. I mean, do you work out all the time? Do you, like all this stuff? And it still said, well, if you had better habits, you might get 7 or 8 more years. I can't remember what it was, but 7 more years. I'll die at 91 instead of 84. And it gave me a different date, November something. And I'm fascinated by the hokiness of this. I don't know how else to say it. It's a fascinating app to me, but for 2 reasons. Number one, I don't think that we can predict that for a number of reasons. Number two, when I saw that, I instantly had the reaction of, Dad, I'm not going to die when I'm 84 years old. I'm going to live to be 184. Like, why would I die at 84 unless God wants to take me off this planet? I have no reason I would die at 84 or 94 or 104, as far as I know. So I had that reaction. And even before our conversation today, obviously, I thought, I wonder how much programming goes into that. I just wonder how many people are like, fuck, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in September of 2056 at 84 years old. And like, I left the best part out. It has a countdown clock on it. It has like a timer where it's like tick, tick, like you're dying. And it's the weirdest thing. But anyway, the programming came to mind.
Get that off your phone.
What's that? Get off my phone.
Get that off your phone.
Right? Well, true.
If you want advice from somebody that loves you, dump that thing like a bad habit.
Right. But I wonder how many people will live up to it. I really wonder. And coming back to the pandemic, whether or not it's real, it's kind of like this death clock, right? There could have been no virus. Let me go even further. Maybe there are no viruses. Maybe there's no such thing as a virus. What people really don't know, or common people think we kill viruses. Hey, everybody, viruses aren't alive. Even people that acknowledge or want to acknowledge that viruses are real entities, they are not really biological living entities like we think. If anything, it's a piece of code. I mean, it's literally a piece of code that gets inserted into us supposedly, and then replicates in our DNA, and our bodies change and shift. Immunological point of view, the way those things happen, it would make sense that that's a survival mechanism. I don't want to say the more, quote, viruses, again, I don't know what those things are that we're exposed to, but the more that our bodies can adapt, I mean, again, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So I have all of that. But whether or not any of that's true, the way it played out in the pandemic of fear mongering, of people are dying, look at the images, look at like you said, the meat trucks, outside the hospital, the one hospital in New York. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting. I wonder how many people will live up to that. Jason, I would love to hear your idea or your thoughts about death clock.
Well, basically, you got to be very, very careful. I would take that off your phone immediately. And I think if you really want to do a great investigation, trace the corporate entity that owns that. It's going to be on your phone. That's very repetitive. You look at it, your subconscious will pick up the app symbol every time. You don't have to open the app. You're going to repeat it and repeat it. Now, as a mind control researcher, if I own this company, I would start with generous. 84 is generous, given that the life expectancy in the U.S. now 74. So I would do sort of real work at the beginning, the carrot. But then as people get used to it, I'm going to start dropping it, because everything that's going on here, it doesn't matter what mind control agenda we're talking about. It's about weakening the public. And when they're weak, they die earlier. So if I can throw in a psychological slant to it and get this death clock app on everybody's phone, 30% of people comply with repetitive content no matter what. So in 2020, 30% of people were basically coming forward and exhibiting these symptoms that were on the TV. And if you do the research, if you want the research on this sort of nocebo placebo, basically you're going to get the symptoms because you watch TV and they tell you the symptoms. Read the book by Daniel Roytas, Roytas, and it's called Can You Catch a Cold? And if anybody thinks that it's far-fetched that people got the symptoms from watching the TV, it's not far-fetched whatsoever. 30% of the public will basically, there was this one experiment that's mentioned in the book where the person was told, or a group of them were actually told they were receiving chemotherapy. They received nothing. And a good majority of their hair fell out when they received nothing, because they associated that was a symptom when you're receiving chemotherapy. So you can basically, again, the repetitive content, the weaker you are, if you're strong, the repetitive content feels like a little bit of a nudge. If you're a little bit weaker, it feels like a suggestion. And then if you're really weak, it feels like a command. And that's why they're always trying to weaken you, keep you up late, poison your food, poison your water, poison your medicine, chemtrail, arm dart you into the nethersphere, is because you live on planet mind control. Everything that I just talked about, from the Teflon pans to the birth control pill, from the aluminum in the deodorant to the cancer-causing talcum powder by Johnson & Johnson, these are mind control modalities to weaken you, because when you're weak, you'll take it as a command. So please understand that they can make deodorants that don't kill you. They can make pens, like surgical stainless steel, that don't kill you, but they won't, because then you'll be impervious to their suggestions.
I'm going to jump into this thing. Is that okay?
Yeah, go.
Best advice to people out there watching this is choose nothing. Choose happiness. Step away from it all for a bit. I haven't owned a television in 13 years. And you're right, there's an assault on our air from the fires, from the chemtrails in our water. We had a guy on here talking about water a couple weeks ago, and I was like, hey, if there's just 1% poop in that glass of water, would you still drink it if you could see the poop in there? And overarching, no, I wouldn't drink it if there's just 1% poop in there. But that's what's happening. The adulterated food, the products you're talking about, the talcum powder and the deodorants that are going right into your glandular system. And there's trace elements of all this stuff. And just choose nothing. Choose nothing for once. Don't take anybody's suggestions, maybe not even mine. And there's a saying that I tell people, Christoff, is you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And then I follow it up with not my monkey, not my circus. And I think about that so much about today's conversation we've had with you and the brilliant Dr. Jason Bradley, with this social priming and media framing, and what you guys have both experienced in your time over the past half decade. And the things that I'm discussing with you today too, is when the choice is not anything to do with good health and good decision, then choose nothing. And that's the thing when Jason's like, hey, I just quit alcohol altogether. Good. Or somebody says, hey, I'm going to commit to 75 hard. Good. Or I haven't owned a television in 13 years. Good. Or I need to make an impact on the people I'm personal trained with, so I discovered how to help them with their mind manipulation. Good. So my question to you, share with us an example of one person that has used your frameworks and has escaped, so the rest of the world might have a bit of hope for themselves as we come to the end of our talks today and say, damn it, I can do what these crazy guys that are all hopped up on truth, I can do it myself.
Everybody that's used my system has improvement, because it's a simple system. Number one, when you work with me, you'll see it now. Before, you would not see it. You're not going to see the repetitive content in your movie or your TV shows. The number one most repetitive content in the film, which indicates where they're most horny to push you. Okay. So it is their top commitment. So as a mind control researcher, you have to understand something. When I count repetitive content and rank them from most repetitive to least repetitive, it'll give me an idea of what's most important for the ruling group. And the most repetitive content is coffee, hands down, and the reasons for that. So if you're going to go to watch the movies and save yourself, make it a competition. Who's going to see the first takeout coffee cup, or the clay coffee mug, or the coffee machine, the espresso or the percolator on the back counter of the restaurant or the kitchen, or the coffee shop in the background, or maybe the scene is inside the coffee shop as opposed to the actors walking by a coffee shop? Make it a competition that if you watch the movie with your family, whoever sees the first coffee imprint gets $10. And trust me, you're going to see it in every movie within the first 20 minutes, if not the first 15. It's usually within the first 15, if not the first 20. If it's after 20 minutes, you don't have to look anymore, which is very, very rare. So you're going to see it. And then you're going to know repetitive content leads my behavior. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what decisions you make, because determination or willpower or perseverance means nothing, because the subconscious will only go where the repetitive content is. So your job is to control the repetitive content and take it out of the hands of the ruling cabal. That's the only way. So you have to understand your subconscious is like an 800-pound gorilla. It will put its hand on your collar and drag you, whether you want to go or not, in the direction of the repetitive content. If it's smoking, vaping, alcohol drinking, cheating on your wife, cheating on your husband, doing marijuana, doing drugs, going to the casino, you're going to go. You don't that's just the way you're designed. If the repetitive content is garbage, you are going to be garbage. Your willpower doesn't matter to an 800-pound gorilla. It's going to drag you there. You could go kicking and screaming and still going there. So what you have to do is control your repetitive content, positive podcast, uplifting art, uplifting culture. Hypnosis is the quickest way to trick this 800-pound gorilla to drag you to something better. We have recorded hypnosis tapes. It's the fastest way into the 800-pound gorilla to change where it's going to drag you. And so you control the repetitive content. And of course, you have to strengthen yourself, because the stronger you are, the less likely you're going to conform to the nonsense anyway. So if you're out of shape, the first thing you got to do, beyond controlling your repetitive content, the first thing you got to do is get in shape, period. And the best thing to start there is Paul Chek's How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy book. It's a great place to start. But as you get stronger health-wise by reading Paul Chek's book, which is basically repetitive positive content on health, you start reprogramming, then you start changing the repetitive content of your own environment. You rule your 2-foot by 2-foot country called yourself, like the most moral king or queen to ever walk the land. And then you just go healthy, healthy body, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy programming. And you pull yourself out of this mind control quagmire one step at a time. That's how you do it. It works for everybody. Anybody that's ever been exposed to my content, they never see the world the same ever again.
I say we start at least one more fire with Christoff.
Start another fire?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start a fire. I can. It's funny because when I look at I don't know what an energetic profile is. I'm evidently like an energy disruptor. So I'm always starting fires and disrupting things, hopefully in a really good way. So I have a statement, and then I have a question. I'm going to come off the word cabal that you used. I love that word. But I want to actually quote another person and then come back to the cabal statement and light this fire. Aldous Huxley famously said, the perfect dictatorship or prison would have the appearance of a democracy, but would basically be a prison without walls in which the prisoners would not even dream of escaping. It would essentially be a system of slavery where through consumption and entertainment, the slaves would love their servitude. And I can't help but think that that's kind of what we're talking about here. I mean, we create a problem, whatever that happens to be, and we create a poison solution that weakens the population, that makes them easier to control. I mean, that pandemic, scandemic, whatever we want to call it, whatever. Even if it was flipping real, even if it was the way, and again, there's a whole bunch of problems with that statement, but even if it was a real thing, wow, did they roll that out in a mind control way? Ever opportunity that they could do. So I want to come back to this idea. You mentioned a ruling cabal just a few minutes ago. So I have a question I'm going to throw a bunch of questions, but it's all one question. And the one question is, who's in the cabal? Okay. So, but the big thing is it one group? Is it competing factions? Is this a worldwide issue, or is this more of a Western society issue? And I'll come back with who's in the cabal. Is everyone in the entertainment industry part of it? So I'm going to turn it, or at least Hollywood. I'll turn it over to you.
Pretty big question, but let's go back to the word cabal. Yeah. And it harks back to this old religion. Like cabal, although it's spelled Cabal,
Yeah.
It's a Ka. Like
Yeah.
Ka is the Egyptian word for spirit. So this group is real. It's a spirit of Baal. So there's this deity, this bull deity called Baal or Moloch. And that's where you get the word Cabal from. It means spirit of Baal. All right. And that is an old Saturnian, which is another word for Satan, and it honors opposites. Doesn't sound so bad so far, does it? But it honors death instead of life. It attacks children instead of protects children. It's the opposites. It wants men to be women, women to be men. It doesn't want health. It wants disease. So yeah, now you're starting to understand some of the traditions that it wants to keep alive. Now, it is this group that understood that poisoning people weakens them and makes them more apt to follow the repetitive suggestions. And yeah, I'm well aware that this group, TVs weren't available 2,500 years ago, but there was town square meetings. There was harvest time gatherings. There was the town crier goes from town to town, Shakespearean plays, newspapers, radio, as you go up through time. You can always control the repetitive content. So basically there's a small ruling group that's called the Cabal that knows number one, they do use poison and mind control. It's the way they keep power. And this is what they pass down through the secret societies. But they have other spiritual beliefs. So you believe in God and I believe in God and we can't see God. And sometimes we pray to God or we might we go do rituals to God at the church. Well, they got their own rituals and it's not that good. And basically, they use a lot of these rituals for their advantage in different ways, but some of them they're trying to communicate with their deity called Baal or Moloch. And, like the Epstein list and things like this, this is their group. They don't like having regular intercourse because it's regular intercourse. It's you produce children. They want the inverted version of that. So they like anal sex and oral sex. They like sex with children. And there's so much of that going on today. And that was a reflection of how effective this mind control group is because it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And that's how good they are. So is everybody in Hollywood in on this? No, but they're all affected by it. And even the word Hollywood, we all know, does everybody know what it means? It's Merlin's magic wand was made from wood of the holly tree, right? Hollywood. It casts spells. They're spell casters. And again, if you go to Hollywood and you're talking about casting spells, all you have to do is weaken the population and control the repetitive content. And you see a lot of the pedophile activity, a lot of Out of Shadows, I think was a documentary made by a Hollywood stuntman just 5 years ago exposing all this, that this is a Saturnian cult that controls the movie industry. So this is the group we're dealing with, and you can see it. We're talking about it today. Epstein worked for the Cabal. His job was to set up politicians and heads of industry, film them having sex with children or underage minors at least, and then hold that over them. So when the call came in in March of 2020 to close this and close that, the president of Qantas, the president of American Airlines says, no way we're getting grounded. And then they'll say, well, you remember that time you were over at Epstein Island? We got you on film. You're going to close now? And he says, absolutely, I'll close now. So this cult has been doing this stuff for thousands of years. That's how they maintain power. This is not a new thing. It's thousands of years old. And if you see them on TV, they're not part of the Cabal. They're employees. The real Cabal members are not in public view. Period.
I remember one time, I don't remember where you said it, but I remember you saying something to the effect of, when you go to like I'm making this up, but like Old Navy, I don't know if it has to be Old Navy or Famous Footwear or whatever it is, and you're talking
Foot Locker.
Foot Locker was Foot Locker, and you're buying a shoe, that's not the owner of that company. Like they're not actually in the store. You don't know who those people are. They're not floating around with us, and it's kind of the same idea. It's very interesting with that word cabal. And again, for our listeners, we have a unique set of listeners that are all over the spectrum, right? From novices to whatever the other extreme is, right? But for those people that are just entering in this rabbit hole right now, and it sounds insane, and like, how could our world leaders be like this? Just also because we're like, Google this for fun, Google that for fun. Just Google Bohemian Grove, and satanic practices here in the United States. I mean, every politician that you can think of, every president is part of this club, and they go over to California at least once a year, and they burn a big effigy to a god, and they say it's all entertainment and whatever.
It's Moloch.
It's Moloch, right? It's Baal.
It's Baal. And I'll give you something people can get more concrete on.
Yeah.
The cult of Moloch or Baal used to use a metal effigy of a bull with a door on it, and they would heat it up. They'd mind control. There's something called trauma-based mind control. So what they would do is they'd actually put a wood fire under the metal effigy of the bull. There's a door in it. They'd put a live baby in there and it would burn. Mm-hmm. Okay? And sometimes they would eat its flesh when it's come out. Now, if you think this is crazy, I got a book for you, but I got something else better for you. So stay with me here. There's a book by Winky Pratney called The Devil Take the Youngest. Read that if you think I'm barking, and blowing smoke here. And this is where we get the word holy moly and holy smoke, because the baby's burning.
Okay.
And it's called holy smoke because it's coming out of the hole. Right. Okay. So you got to know a bit of your etymology, where your words come from. Look up right now if anybody thinks this is bullshit. And that's where the word comes from, because the bull cult of Moloch is known to be liars. So in the ancient time, when someone's telling you a lie, they automatically associate them with the bull cult, and they'd say, you're a bullshitter. And when they would mark him as a bullshitter, they knew he's from the cult of Baal, and they knew they had to get him out of the town right away, or they would cast a spell on them. Look it up on your computer, Jefferson University, the winged ox of St. Luke, the patron saint of physicians. It's in Philadelphia. It's on a pedestal. It is a winged deity, a bull-winged deity. It is Moloch in plain sight, and it has the door right on it. Look for it yourself, and it's in front of the Jeffersonian Medical School, because media and medical are run by the same Medici crime family. So that's where the word is from. They're putting it right in your face. And if anybody's a novice, I apologize. But this is what someone who's healthy, body, mind, and spirit sounds like when addressing the problems of this world. So sorry if you're used to someone bullshitting you on the 6 o'clock news. That's not how empowered people do it.
And it's just interesting because, like you said, it's right in plain sight once you start to see it. And honestly, I both thank you and say, F you, because now I can't watch anything without seeing all this stuff, right? So, entertainment value is like real low with me on almost everything right now. So I appreciate, and I really do appreciate that. I'm being facetious, but it's right in plain sight. Even things like, and I'm just going to say this about Get Better Faster, the staff of Caduceus, right? Which, what the heck is that? It's that staff that, the symbol of medicine that has the snakes going like this, that everybody knows. Guys, that's actually a staff of a snake cult that worship death. I find it very curious that our modern our modern medical associations have adopted a symbol of a death cult. It's like you said, it's right in front of us all the time. They're telling us we are a death cult. We worship death things. We worship orgies and alcohol and and flagrant sexuality and killing people and living off that energy. I mean, it's right in front of us. I just outed myself for all of our listeners. These are the things that are in my head when I'm consuming media at all. But I'd love to hear your take on, I know we talked about the bullshitting and ball, but bring us back. Like, what do you know about this staff of Caduceus?
Here you have to understand, again, look at the word Caduceus. Okay, so Ka, spirit, Deus, two, and us. So what you have to understand about the Caduceus, or it's almost like the Caduceus. So Ka is spirit, Deus means two, see means to visually observe, and us. So for us to be humans in the physical realm, we have to have the male and the female polarities spinning around the spine. That's what usually it's about, okay? A central post. So basically the Caduceus is the spirit of two, which produces life. And obviously, if you're alive at some time, you're going to die. But if you go to the World Health Organization, the WHO, their symbol is the same rod of Caduceus with a single snake. So they're trying to go back to the singularity, which means the death of humans, and it's right in plain sight. So there's no Caduceus. It's going to be a unduceus, which means there's going to be no more deuce. That's why they're always trying to push for a single gender, a no gender, sort of a Baphomet. So sexually confused, like the sexual confusion agenda is going to go to the no gender agenda. That's where they're pushing it. And this group uses what's called Fabianistic tactics, which is named after the Emperor Fabian in Rome. And his operation was, let's grind them down slowly, inch by inch, death by 1,000 cuts. They'll never even push back. They won't even know where we're pushing them. And Emperor Fabian was also famous for, like, when I die, I'll just give it to my kids. Right? That's how long we're going to be dedicated to the goal of screwing the other side over. They won't even see it coming. The next generation of the people we're attacking won't even know what we're doing because it'll be my kid doing it. So this is the same warfare tactic that's being used on North Americans and everybody in the Western world right now. So yeah, this group, again, from the ancient Middle East, an old, very dangerous cult. You can see their symbology in the WHO. We go from the double snake and the rod to the single snake, which means they're going to go for a no gender population, just robots. That's what the singularity is. Everybody coming down to one thing, one gender, one world government, one world army, one world religion, one language. That's what the singularity is. And that's what that symbol represents. I know it sounds, everybody's shitting their pants out there, but that's what's going on. Like it's all in plain sight. And if you want to go and research the Caduceus or other symbols, go right ahead. But you can use my explanation as sort of your first step.
It's fascinating stuff. And I don't want to say my last question. I could sit here all day with you. So I'll be brief here. Can we pull out of it? Like, I mean, what do you think? Is there hope for humanity?
Absolutely. You know why? Because if there's something this group tips their hat to every single time they make a move, they fear only one thing: God. Now, for everybody out there that's given up on God or don't believe in God, let me tell you, this group, they absolutely believe in God. They absolutely do everything to go at God. So if God's not real and everything they do is against God, they're really stupid. And they're not that, they're psychopathic, but they're not stupid. So all we need to do is understand every attack they make on us is an attack on God. So like say in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick up here in Canada, I'm not in Canada. I say it like I'm still there because I'm Canadian, but they're locking you out of the forest. But it's because it's God's force, God's vibration, God's berries, God's fish, God's frequency, God's tone, God's relaxation. They're always trying to separate you from God. Like even when they came at you in 2020, you're supposed to have your brain from God and your soul connection to God to put up a red flag and say, I'm not doing this. This doesn't make any sense. That's God talking through you. For them to use mind control and work against that innate human potential and intelligence, they're making a strike directly at God. for you to have kids and send them to school, it's a strike at God, because the kid's for you. It's not for some teacher to indoctrinate and mind control. So understand that and I'm not a Bible man whatsoever. I don't go to church, but I've learned through my research that these people, all they do is take swipes at God. So whatever nature is, life is, get on the side of God, life, and nature and hold your ground, and we can get out of this.
Amen.
Well, I listened to you yesterday on another show, and you're talking the same thing you were talking on someone else's show. And you're talking about Wi-Fi of God and Wi-Fi of the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good synopsis for us to have some closure here and get close to nature, get close to things that matter, get close to your own truth, and find ways to get better faster. And I think that that's the real truth here is get that stupid app off your phone, Dr. Jason, and become harder to kill, but also choose nothing sometimes. There isn't always a choice. Whatever they show you, have discernment and have a qualitative idea of if it's good or bad. And I think that that's where we have to go back to square one is between good and evil. What is good? What is evil? And you know that. There's no distinction. I feel like Jordan Peterson here, but there's no distinction whether we have the mind to say yes or no. It's always what we choose is the right thing. And if we choose the wrong thing, we know it's the wrong thing. Like it's discernment at the end of the day. And the more you are closer to God, amen. And you don't have to be a Bible man here, Jason Christoff, to know that the good side is the side that is not the satanic side. And that's the first step I tell anybody to jump out of this medical matrix is go towards the light, go towards the good, and find your own discernment and ask questions. Ask really good questions and keep on listening to get better faster. Is it okay if I wrap this one up, Dr. Bradley?
Yeah, it is. I feel again that we did a lot of good work, and I feel like we did a little bit more than scratching the surface, but I feel like there's a lot more depth. So we'll have Jason back on and dive even deeper. And I'm just excited for that. But I just want to say, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your genius and helping us, escape this medical matrix, whatever it is, this matrix, life matrix, whatever it is, world matrix, whatever it is. I appreciate it. I appreciate the help you've given Rachel and I with our training and understanding of things. And also, I just want to say thanks for being just a good person. I just appreciate you. So, yeah, James, I'll hand it right back to you.
I want those meditations, Christoff, so send them on over, okay?
Yeah, well, absolutely. No problem, James.
But this is absolutely eye-opening and critical for our listeners to hear this information in this conversation. I know we took some latitude and some longitude, and we took people far and wide. We didn't so much talk about like fake moon landings or flat earth or anything like that, but we definitely had a good jab in there about Bigfoot earlier. So for our listeners, Jason's work is exposing media, mind control, and advocating for medical freedom. It isn't just theory. You guys all have to take a stand one day or another, whether it's the arm darts he's talking about for your kids or yourself. It's all practical knowledge that can literally save your ability to think for yourself and make informed health decisions. Count those coffee moments in those movies and those shows. His insights into behavioral psychology give you the tools to recognize manipulation when you see it and reclaim your autonomy. Like, look for the coffee, guys. Remember, nobody's coming to save you, but understand that these psychological techniques prove that you need to save yourself from the mental manipulation. I think that everybody's at the grasp of that. Jason, thanks again for your courage, for sharing these vital insights. It's nice to be in network with you. I don't know if nice is a good word, but I'm looking forward to where we're going to take this next conversation with you. And hey, guys out there listening, the best way to show your support is to share this episode with somebody who needs to hear this message, whether they like it or not, whether they like swear words or they like talking about good versus evil, especially those that are starting to question the official narratives of the cabal and the mainstream medical agenda, make people sick, stupid, and slow and harder and easier to kill, not harder to kill. And guys out there listening in our Get Better Faster Nation, don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode and get all of the behind the scenes content that we have coming your way. We've got more incredible guests lined up who are going to blow your mind with real solutions for reclaiming your health, your happiness, and your freedom. and your body autonomy. How about that? And your religious freedom. How about that? Up until next time, keep questioning everything and keep getting better faster. And it's your choice, not your cabal. And they're everywhere, but they're not ever going to be in front of you, like Christoff says. So question everything, question everything, question everything. Thank you so much for being our guest today, Jason. It was really eye-opener for me. And like I said in the closing there, a lot of the things that we have in front of us are the more that we have these conversations, the more clarity people get, and the more they'll have the ability to make decisions better for themselves and their loved ones. And just stand in the light, brother. Thank you for being with us.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. And sorry if I caused some brown stains in the pants of the audience. My apologies. But thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody. We love you all, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning into the Get Better Faster podcast. Join the movement and visit getbetterfasterpodcast.com to find all our episodes, micro content, and resources to help you and your family get better faster.